every time we do a project, I leave as much of that industry as possible, and then I go to something completely different.
Started to realize that anything mainstream media, it's this contrived bullshit to achieve whatever objectives that they want to achieve. I don't even know what the actual objective is, but it's not to give us the best products. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Brand Fathers two-person pod today. Jordan's, as many of you know, he's in the National Guard. And so he was called up for whatever the National Guard is doing nowadays. No context into that. No, I'm just joking. Jordan's actually in Puerto Rico, which is even more terrifying.
He is in Puerto Rico with Bad Bunny, which, interesting side note on Bad Bunny. I was with this guy who runs this burger joint and bagel joint in New York. There's 7th Street Burgers and Apollo Bagels, which
is legendary.
You've seen the line at Apollo. They only opened last year, and they are like scaling very quickly. Every single place, there's a ton of demand there. But we were talking about 7th Street Burgers, which they opened to 30 locations in New York City. They started in 2021, and I was kind of asking him, how it started to take off. He mentioned, a few different things like quality of product, et cetera, et cetera. But Bad Bunny came into one of the 7th Street locations and had a great
that was to like shut shit down. Yeah.
Had a great experience. And that first time he came, it didn't shut anything down, right? It's just like he got in, he got out, he had a good time. Then he came back to one of their locations on McDougal Street, which is kind of like heart of Greenwich Village, like near NYU, like very popular street. And he came to them and he was like, hey, could I do a podcast here out of this location? And these guys were like, yeah, sure. Let's just keep it super low key. And he's like, yes, I don't want to cause a scene. I don't want like the street to shut down, etc. So they set it up for a day where he's going to come in. They don't tell anyone, but one of the managers working at the store, I guess, like told some of the local cops, like, hey, just a FYI, Bad Bunny's going to come through here. We don't expect anyone to like know about this because it's very low key. He's going to be sitting like back to the wall, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, yeah, okay, that's totally fine. 10 minutes before he arrives, there's like a SWAT team that rolls down the street, okay? The cops are like, no, we're blocking this thing off. They set up a barricade, okay, preemptively. And there's no one there. No one knows what is going on. And so the 7th Street guys are like, fuck. Bad Bunny's squad comes in and they're like, fuck. But still, like, no one knows, right? No one's gathering.
Yeah. Anything could be happening. Bill de Blasio could be going to lunch,
Yes, exactly. So he kind of
Eric Adams could be meeting a prostitute. Sorry.
He kind of sneaks in quietly. He starts recording. Time goes on, like 10 minutes go by, 20 minutes go by, 30 minutes go by. No one's standing outside. Then like a couple people stand outside and they're like looking in, and then like a couple more people. And then it kind of leaks on like some stream. There were like streamers who just tracked the whereabouts of Bad Bunny, and it leaked on their streams that he was there. And he was like, dude, at the end of the 50-minute episode, the entire street was shut down of McDougal Street. There were just like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And so
this is why the Strokes said you can't trust New York City cops, You
can't. You can't. And that's why Mamdani wants to defund the police,
Speaking of which, no, I'm just joking. Yeah.
Which is all to say, he's like, it's funny now because like every day we'll get a couple of posts that we're tagged in where someone's at a 7th Street Burger and they're like, I'm at Bad Bunny's favorite burger place. And he's like, we kind of hit this inflection point after Bad Bunny came to our spot. So,
and I do want to, so not to go full Bad Bunny camp, but we might as well. So there was all this backlash to Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl. It's like, he doesn't even speak English. He's not standing during the national anthem. I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny is fucking amazing. It's like his music is amazing. No matter what generation you are, rage, orientation, man can perform. My wife and I saw Bad Bunny at Crypto Arena. We're the only white people there. Time of our lives. Best party of a minute. Like it was, I was like, there's no better choice. I would love to see Morgan Wallen, right? Like, let's get that next year. Let's do the country extravaganza so I can have Jelly Roll come out. But like, I was just like, any backlash you have on that just doesn't have a knowledge of like, you can't go to a warehouse in LA where anyone's working without just the only agreed upon music by everybody. It's just Bad Bunny.
Yeah. I love that. He's a voice of our nation, Bad Bunny.
And then Jordan is, really working with him in depth, one-on-one on his basketball game. So this is,
which is all to say we have no idea where Jordan is.
I truly no clue. But he is in Puerto Rico for better or for worse. I don't know if he's going to establish the 6 months, 1 day residency now or if that guy comes later. But I think we had a couple topics we wanted to hit on today. One of the ones I wanted to start with is we talked about Ramp last week, and it got me thinking, basically, like, Ramp is a great product. Have you used Ramp?
I have not used Ramp, no.
So I've been paid out on Ramp. A bunch of people use Ramp. Fermat and Darkroom, most people where we know use Ramp for expenses and shit like that. So basically everybody, I think, of the more savvy folks. And it's a really well done payout experience. I think it's superior for both sides to the other expense apps out there, right? And they also market significantly better, right? It's what we probably talked about last week. Like very high level. And it was the same thing I was doing with I was thinking about Built the other day, because we've all used Built as an example of content, because they have the Roomies series, they're doing episodic, they have done content well. But then Built is a thing in LA. I don't know how much this is. I'm sure it is in New York too, but it's the perks are really good. And one of the perks in LA is there's LA parking through Built. I was talking about this with a friend the other day, and it's interesting, these financial giants, for lack of a better, or incumbents, I guess, who just have such a better user experience and marketing than this entire industry where all the money is. And no one seems to have caught on. No one's working on UI, UX, or understanding any of this in any of these other institutions. Just seems kind of wild to me, and thought we could discuss.
Yeah. So I think there's, a couple interesting things about how these companies think about marketing. I think first, when I look at a lot of what they do, and there's this guy, Emmett Shine, who ran Gin Lane. And,
we were at, he's at Little Plains now. We both were speaking at the Air thing.
Oh, nice. So I think he has really good perspective on a lot of stuff. And I saw a tweet from him recently, and he was kind of talking about his approach to branding. And he's like, every time we do a project, I leave as much of that industry as possible, and then I go to something completely different. So if I'm working on a wine brand, I might be looking in space technology, right? For visual inspiration. I'm not going to go look at other wine brands or in this space. And I think about that idea of looking at completely adjacent categories to pull inspiration about how they do things. And when you look at some of these traditional places, finance, insurance, healthcare, they're just looking at what everyone has been doing. It's United Healthcare is advertising the same as XYZ, is same as Oscar, same as this. And some of these new fintech players that I think are getting it, Built and Ramp, are just we're going to market Miu Miu and these consumer lifestyle luxe brands and experiences. We're not going to spend money doing all the same stupid stuff in the same channels that all of our competitive players are, because it's just super expensive, and we can do something fun that stands out.
And it's actually funny. I deal with this a lot in conversations about luxury, right? So I make luxury content and talk about how people make luxury content. And I'll get people that are I want to make content like ALD and Cartier and da 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 da. And I'm like, hey, so you can't play their game. If you were to ask, how do you want to get rich today? Are you going to go look at how the Kennedys got rich? Right? Or the Rothschilds? You're not, right? Because that's not a repeatable framework. And it's the same thing with this content, right? You're not ALD. Nike can pull LeBron. Why would you look at what their content performance is like? Instead, your ability as an incumbent is to have speed, have risk-taking, have the ability to have a better cultural understanding of what's happening, and then act on that with less approval, right? And I think it's just really important to think through, because so many people either base it on their industry or base it on these incumbents. But the user experience portion is interesting to me. Do you have any finance products? Obviously, I think Copilot, Mercury, and a few that have great user experiences where you're these guys are really dialing in the modern way?
From a digital standpoint, or from an experiential standpoint?
Digital is kind of what I mean, you using the product, wherever it is.
Yeah. I mean, physically using the product, I think Copilot is a great product for just tracking all of your finances, kind of financial health dashboard. So I'm a huge fan of that product. Wealthfront is kind of fine. That's something that you need to interact with less on a daily basis, because just you put money in there and then look at it every now and then. Those are two that are good. I also did a bunch of work with this bank called Highbeam, which is it's banking for e-commerce businesses. And I think what has been really interesting in this era since 2018, you have all of these banks, quote unquote banks. They'll never call themselves banks because there's an underlying bank that already exists, some regional bank in South Dakota, and they're just building a UI using their banking infrastructure. The result is that all of these new banking services, like Mercury was banking for startups, tech startups. That was their initial niche. Highbeam is banking for e-commerce companies. And when you understand those categories in a very specific way, then you're able to tailor the UI for them, right? So Bank of America has no idea that I have an e-commerce business. So I just see the same old shit. But you go into Highbeam, it's hey, this is what your CAC looks like. This is what your cash conversion cycle looks like. We're going to lend you credit with the understanding of your capital and inventory needs. So there are increasingly more good ones that I'm seeing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that layer of hey, we're niching, right? Niching allows you to have a superior user experience if you live and breathe the user. And the marketing one's interesting too. I actually remember I did content with Mercury, and we use Mercury for all kinds of shit. And so I love them as very natural content fit. But I did content for them last holiday. And then the new year I pitched them, I had been doing this yapping series on TikTok that was doing really well. It's creative financial stuff. So I was hey, I'd love to continue doing an informational series that's literally what is a P&L? Stuff you're too afraid to ask. desk and you're a graphic designer, right? And kind of diving into that. And they were like, I don't know, I'm going to take the pitch. But I'm like, man, there is such a room for educational content related to money, right? And I'd even look at this, like, I understand what Ramp's doing. I think they're doing an excellent job in what they're doing. Again, I understand what Built's doing and like how they built about it. But like, there is such a fundamental lack of understanding in so many niches about money, about finance, about how companies work, that if you just had interesting, credible people telling well-edited stories, you could just fucking dominate marketing. And I know you're probably the same boat, but like, I just see the fucking matrix. Like, I know what these views will work. And I just don't understand why there's just nobody in these categories, like even attempting to do the basics of what good content looks like.
Yeah. I think there's, I was talking about this at some point because I was looking at, it was either like Citi's content or Amex's content. And I was like posting some stories, like, hey, here's like some baseline, very easy content that they could make. And then there were a couple of people who work in the industry and they're just like, yes. And there's like two kind of points here. Many of these companies aren't actually in the interest of trying to develop financial literacy for their customer base. They make more money when there is more financial illiteracy, right? If you're like Amex, you don't really want people to understand like how these APRs work and like why you should pay off more than like your minimum statement balance like on a monthly basis. So there's like part of that, right? Which is like you can put a tinfoil hat on and be like, okay, that's like conspiracy. I don't know how true that is. Then there's like a regulatory standpoint where it's like you can't say a lot of things as that financial services company that could be like treated as like.
But then it's like what Opal did. I guess there's probably like the degree in between, but like what Opal did, right? So if those don't know, Opal had a creator open a new account about time management or like workflow or whatever it was. And so it's a young woman just talking about like better productivity or whatever. And she started going viral pretty well. It's like, hey, this is just purely an Opal promotional account. And so I do think there's room to be able to utilize creators in this like middle reach, but no one just wants to go through this. I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things that kind of boggles me. If you were approaching, if you were in the fintech space and you want to make content or stand out in marketing, any ideas or tips for anyone listening?
So listen, there are some great creators who make good content around finance and like finance literacy. Vivian too, like your rich BFF. I think she makes good content. There's small creators that are like doing that kind of stuff. And then there's big creators like Caleb, who does his Dave Ramsey series. People come on and they dissect and roast their finances. So there's a lot of opportunities to, if you're a fintech company, to like run ads on that podcast or partner with creators to like do this kind of like informational series. There was a company that I was talking to recently that helps automate 529 investments for parents, setting up IRAs, IRA Roths, getting the most tax advantageous structures. And they partnered with this one creator who is a kind of mom creator who does like mom creator content, lifestyle content, but like here and there, like talks about her family's finances, how they budget for groceries, all that stuff. They partnered with her to basically do a video that like explains how you can save X in taxes by setting up an IRA Roth this way. And like, it was a really good, well done video. And it only had 60 or 70,000 views, which is like, it's solid. It's not massive, but they got something like 250 leads off of that, or like 250 like signups into their funnel. And he was like, yeah, so we're like thinking about working with more creators. I'm like, definitely think about working with more creators like her. You should also boost that post. And he was like, what does that look like? And I'm like, oh, they have no idea. They have no idea what to do with us right now.
It's funny. It's one of the only people that really understood. I did some stuff with Film Supply. And like I was getting a ton of comments for the reports, and it was like they boosted that shit to the moon. It was just like, oh, this is just lead, this is the lead button. But it's so funny how few people, especially with the ManyChat call to actions and stuff. Yeah. Actually, no, I want to touch on this too. So we know what ManyChat is. You would do a comment on a post and you get a DM. You use it, I use it, most creators use it. It's a great way to put leads in from posts, or just to give people easy access to a download because no one's going to go to your bio, right? But brands, this is something I'm trying to convince a brand I'm working with to do. I was like, hey, this is actually like an extremely useful tool for brands too, because guess what? Everyone's lazy. If you launched a new product and you have a 12 million followers or whatever, do you want them all to go to the link in your bio? Or do you want to just have a comment automation and you DM them the link to the release or DM them the link to the full length YouTube video or whatever it is? But brands don't use it. And I think that is a easy, immediate win. If you want to increase the efficacy of your social to actually lead to conversion of whatever that goal is, whether that's leads, that's views, that's whatever, it's just like integrate ManyChat. And again, don't do it on every video, but like, why wouldn't you comment blank to get the fucking release link? Like, it doesn't make any sense not to at least try it, right?
Yes.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, just 100%. They should. 100% they should.
Announcing our new sponsor, ManyChat. I'm just joking, but please holler at the boys. Switching gears slightly, although at least a little bit related. The other thing, when I was in New York, we were all hanging out when I was in New York, and I noticed the sheer amount of Shop My billboards. There's a lot of out of home for Shop My on there. I actually thought it was good out of home. We'll have Ian or someone pull this in, but basically they had all the creators as the face of it. So it was like Nara Smith for Shopmy, and a link to her Shopmy is the promo right next to, a bunch of other influencers. Which I thought was particularly interesting. That's covered New York to basically shop these curated experiences. And then it was also interesting. I've been using the Shop app, the Shopify Shop app. Are you familiar?
Yep.
It's actually a pretty good shopping experience from a recommendation engine standpoint. Because I'll go in there and it knows I buy from Flamingo Estate. It has all my stuff in there. And I can kind of scroll by category and it gives me very accurate other streetwear, other whatever. And I was like, oh, this is the first time I've actually had a discovery-based shopping experience that's good. And I was like, oh, this next, this curation layer of this is the next kind of frontier. Obviously, we're seeing on TikTok Shop, etc. But then I was shared in the group chat, ShopMy has raised $70 million at a $1.5 billion valuation. And I was like, oh, this is way bigger than I thought. Influencers being able to put their picks. We don't do this type of stuff, right? I just set up a ShopMy the other week. But a lot of more home or fitness or women influencers do this all the time. This must be generating just an absolutely astounding amount of money. I'm just curious, what you've dealt with there, any ideas that sparks?
I think for context, so everyone knows kind of what we're talking about with ShopMy. So, and also correct me if I'm wrong. So ShopMy is an affiliate platform where if you're an influencer, you can basically say, hey, here are the 50 products that I like, or the 50 outfits I like, 100 outfits I like. Rather than linking to each one of them in my bio or in my Instagram stories, I basically have a curated storefront where you can see all of the products that I recommend. When someone comes in through your profile, they click into it, they say, hey, I want to go buy these XYZ glasses. And then they get a referral kickback, whoever that influencer is, right? That's the entire structure of how it works.
Yep. And look, it's similar to, it's basically the ability to curate putting a commission-based thing in there. But here's curation is more important than ever. I think in this creator generation, one thing I was talking about the other day is, millennials are wire cutter people, right? Millennials are if I want to make a decision about a toaster, you go to a wire cutter thing. And, but then I've found as I review a lot of products now. So I have my hands on a lot of products, and I've found that I extremely frequently disagree with wire cutter. And I've started to realize that like anything mainstream media, it's this contrived bullshit, right? That to achieve whatever objectives that they want to achieve as the fucking liberal elite. I don't even know where what the actual objective is, but it's not to give us the best products, in my opinion, at least. And I'm like, oh, and I started to be like, well, how many page views do they get? What does this or that look like? And I was like, oh, I'm actually getting a ton of views on these product versus brand videos, et cetera. And I'm like, the desire for people to be explained what they should get and why for their demographic is kind of unparalleled. But then the tech layer to enable this, what you're scrolling through here is very limited. There just really is. You put a link in your bio to go to a thing, and then I have a ShopMy. It's I get 4% commissions on some stuff, and then Amazon's giving me a 4.5 and a 2. It's the money's so small compared to TikTok Shop, right? Where I think we both have a lot of experience where it's hey, that's 20, 30, 40%. 10 at the absolute lowest, so much more. And so that's where I actually think that businesses like this sort of have significantly more upside, and that the way that people are doing these couple percent commissions isn't going to cut it. And where the alpha is, I think brands should understand out there is raise that commission. Be the person that someone puts prominently on there they can make real money on. There's big opportunity.
Yes. So I think that's a really important point where, when I even think about TikTok Shop commissions, people can get pretty stingy with that, saying I can't go above 20%, I can't go above 30%. But they won't blink an eye if you tell them their customer acquisition cost on Facebook is $80. I'm you're paying double the price of your product to acquire a customer. Why don't you just treat the commission as customer acquisition cost? It's exactly what it is.
Because that's exactly what it fucking is. Yeah, anyway.
So make it 90%, dude. Make it 100%, and get those customers in the door. Do anything above 20%, you can stand out. And I think there's a real opportunity, again, to kind of do that here. And what I actually think is interesting as I'm looking about this, and I have no real well-reasoned takes on ShopMy, but even looking at how they present here, this term affiliate has always been this weird internet term that has been kind of sketchy for a long time. It's guys running affiliate networks based in Romania for supplements and all kinds of shit that's generally illegal.
Yeah, it's gray hat all the time. Yeah,
it's all gray hat. And there was AWin and ShareASale, which were the OG affiliate websites that are some of the worst absolute worst user. You want to talk about user experiences. When I log in to share a sale or Awin, dude, like that is like a 12 out of 10 crash out for me. I have no fucking clue what is happening in those platforms. They're a nightmare to use. And so there has been this like history with affiliate. You've had that, and then you get like TikTok Shop affiliate, which is still feels kind of like cheap and like young kids. And I think the perception is shifting ever so slightly, but it's like, oh,
it's still nascent. Yeah, it's shifting ever so slightly for us and the people on the forefront,
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just like look at affiliate. If you've like been in the internet commerce world for some time, you're just like, affiliate's kind of like, just feels kind of shitty, And then you look at this from ShopMy, and I'm like, this looks like a luxe experience. They have hyper curated people who are tasteful, who have big audiences, who lean into like luxury and aspirational lifestyle. Their branding feels like luxe and elevated. You click into these things, it's a really nice experience. So even here, like, I don't even know if they use the word affiliate anywhere in ShopMy, which I also think is just kind of interesting.
Well, it's smart, but also there needs to be, I think curation is the right term, but also it's like, how do you then apply the commerce aspect? But I think that's a big thing. I agree. I'm actually convinced, because I've had all these conversations now again and again with like CMOs, CEOs, smart but older guys and girls. And I think it's the word affiliate, TikTok Shop affiliate.
Yeah.
I think is a real killer, because they go immediately, it's gray hat.
Yep.
And so I do think that there is a terminology issue there that when it gets fixed is big. But then I think there's, to your point, there's the incentive issue. Like I set up a ShopMy I'm about to take out of my bio for like a couple of reasons. Like one is I tracked it. That was interesting. It's like I have thousands of clicks on it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple sales and I made like $50. I was like, cool, this is just not of any fucking interest, right? Like, especially when you're like selling like higher ticket stuff or whatever. But it's like, okay, whatever system figures out the 20 to 40% commission version of that is easily linkable with multiple products and whatever that goes across those networks is going to be a thing. I think other people see it too. So what's interesting is Gap just launched a big affiliate program. Sephora just launched a big affiliate program where they're kind of enabling, they're seeing, oh, maybe we can own it as a brand. I think the curation network is probably going to function better than the brand. But I was curious what you see is like, if a brand wants to approach that or attack that, they have a certain amount of equity. Should they be trying to bring people in direct and like track it somehow direct? Or is this something where like this is ownable by networks? Like where do you go play in this as a brand?
I mean, I would just looking at the brands that are on ShopMy, I would go play on ShopMy. I mean, Shopify even has this like internal affiliate product built out now, right? You can manage and run affiliate through Shopify, and they're like, hey, we have our network where anyone can sign up to be your affiliate. No one signs up because where are they going? Like Shopify's not doing the marketing on the creator side to go pull in Sophia Richie and like Serena Kerrigan and all of these people to be like,
and those people are mostly using ShopMy because it's the fucking good solution for them. And then now they recruit extremely hard, but like it was a solution because they could make money.
But then all of the products that are like being sold on ShopMy, like people are just being directed to their Shopify website anyway. So it's like Shopify's kind of losing out here. Like Shopify is this additional layer where they're like, hey, it's actually, you need a lot of UI infrastructure and marketing on both sides to make this work. That
seems like such a no-brainer acquisition. And I guess at 1.5 billion valuation, that's probably pretty hard. But like, that's where I feel like the Shop app, which is a good experience, ShopMy. Oh, look, Shopify has 5.8 billion cash on hand.
Yeah.
But I think that's where this ends up going is like in that competing with Amazon layer, in that like future of commerce, where does this go? It's going to be like the curators are winning right now. The curators matter everything. I sold, I guarantee, more jackets on my Arc'teryx video where I broke down alternatives to them now that the brand has fallen off than any menswear writer, any publication on any jacket summary this entire season. I sold more off that one video, right? And so I think there's this like, okay, that power has shifted, but there's no way to encapsulate the value, right? I'm not getting any value off that. And I think that's an interesting, like whoever solves that issue is going to do very well.
What was the highest price point product you had in your ShopMy?
Well, I was trying to go high. I had some rugs in there, Nordic Knots, I think.
Okay.
I was trying to put the highest stuff on there because here's the funny part is I made that rugs video and multiple people bought Benny rugs off of it. And Benny rugs like DM'd and shit. Like, so shout out, but I had people be like, yo, I got this rug. Cause I have like a rich follower base, like just naturally as kind of part of it. But there's no, but like that's where like people are making $5,000-$6,000 purchases. Yeah, I think I have it. There's a 1,700, a 2,600. Yeah, like I got 500. Yeah, I have over 50 clicks to fragrances that cost more than $300 on my ShopMy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, yeah, so that's why I said the highest price thing on here is $2,600. And that's because that's the highest price thing I could find of the things I'm recommending.
I wonder,
but I get 4% on a purchase of someone. I'm gonna get $80.
Yeah, so I would love to know your Molly Baz, your Carly Kloss, your Nara Smith. Like, what kind of dollars are they putting up?
They're putting up real numbers. 'Cause I know there's people on the management company I'm on that do this. That's like a thing, who are putting up tens of thousands of dollars a month on it. So like that's a real thing, but they have obviously different base, different whatever. But I still think the economics are wildly skewed because they're doing that on these 4%, 6% commissions, which truly make no sense for the creator.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the alpha is. But I think the problem is brands going direct isn't the right solution. And then the curation platforms aren't going to be able to convince the brands they should be giving up that amount. But I feel like any big problem that big, there's alpha to build in.
Yeah. At that amount of tens of thousands of dollars. I almost think if I was one of these creators and I was making that much and then I had this opportunity to say, hey, do you want to go start your own apparel brand and launch that, put your face.
That's what they do. Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, because I'm making 4% here, but I know I'm selling a ton of fucking product. Let me just like slightly edit this and then.
But that's literally what we do. I'm sure Paige Lorenz went from fucking Shop My to Dairy Boy.
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
all these people that are doing that are like, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And just basically, also you want to sell other stuff, right? I sell all kinds of shit, but it's worth it to me. If I mention a rug, let's try to get some value down the line on a Shop My.
Yeah.
It's interesting playing with all this. This is what I like and why I encourage everyone to become a creator is like, I don't have a concrete plan to make money off affiliate, but I will understand it a lot more by making videos about it and then putting up the affiliate link and making the Shop My. And this is what the click conversion looks like. And you begin to see the world you're talking about from the consumer standpoint, like in 3D.
Yeah. I also think it gives you better understanding too of varying levels of influence that a creator has and in like what categories it extends to. Like if you recommend a stock photo software, right? You could probably drive 10,000 signups for that tomorrow, right? It's just like, this is what I use across all my projects. This is how I use it.
Yeah, we sell that, but that's not, yeah.
Creative direction, right? But if you're like, hey, this is the candle that I put in my home, I'm like, all right, I don't know. This guy's never talked about candles before. I have like no perspective on like these other aspects. And even like realizing that as a creator yourself, like, hey, where do I have a lot of like influence and like where are the ceilings to that influence allows you to work with creators and evaluate creators in an even better way because you're like, hey, yeah, so-and-so has 1 million followers, but it's only going to reach in like this one very specific niche category. This can't translate across like every category. And that's something that you see when you're kind of like behind the scenes trying this kind of stuff out yourself.
Yeah. What are you working on now? What's been the current challenge in your pipeline or anything you're deep into?
I'm deep in packaging right now because we're doing a rebrand for SunPowder. So we got our press proofs yesterday. We now have our press proofs on our labels, which we got to go do.
You're going gloss, I see. You don't want to go to hit that soft matte, Yeah.
So we got a soft matte and then we got spot UV treatment on the S.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. Dude, it's, there's so much nuance to this stuff, right? So you have your co-man, you have your people who make your labels, and then we're getting things like stick packs made right now. And I'm talking to the packaging supplier that's making the films, and they're like, hey, are we at like a number 3 rewind or a number 4? Are we at a 5-lane layout or a 10-lane layout? Do they accept like X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, I have no idea what any of these terms mean. Can you explain this to me? Then you understand all of the nuance there. Then you have to go back to your co-man, get that information. There's like all this like, very...
very tight. It's funny. When I was, when Landforce and I worked together at this company we were at previously, we had manufacturing in 2 states and we were manufacturing the same product lines and we were syncing the same machines and then we were doing label because we did batch labels. It was cannabis, right? So it had to be, every time you do a batch, it's a fucking nightmare, but you have to have compliance based on that batch and you have testing based on that batch. And so these batches are all these different lot sizes, 536, 1037, like, and so for making pre-rolls or whatever it is. And so then you would be ordering these fast turns because also there's a freshness aspect to it. So it's like, what are the label providers? It was one like EMS, a few of these other guys who do next day. And then, but can you do spot? And like, okay, well, can we get these and do a secondary label? And how much does the secondary label add to the labor cost? And it's just like, you start getting into this rabbit hole of like how this stuff actually works, which is, I think, very valuable for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it is good to understand. And it's like, as much as I talk about branding and design stuff, like half the stuff I'm doing with I'm like reconciling Ohio State taxes this like afternoon, right? And it's like, you get that information over. And then you're just like talking like ops. We have like an FBA inventory acceptance issue. And like, now we have to go deal with that. There's just like a lot of the mechanics of operations that you have to do that are generally not that enjoyable. But I think also doing it allows you to like be better on all of these fronts, right? Because you like work backwards in your heads of things that are like going to be feasible and not feasible. And then how that impacts everything from like your margins and ultimately like the financial viability of your brand.
You guys doing anything big for Black Friday?
No, because we're sold out right now.
That's fucking, you mean that's, yeah. Well, I guess good and bad, you know?
Well, it's good and bad because we had a big reformulation to do. Our existing product was sweetened with sucralose, and that was like a non-starter. It's like 67% of people who like churn because of that reason from subscription.
Did you discover that via like a survey, or how did you come across that information?
Yes. So number 1, reviews, then number 2, surveys. So we sent out a survey.
There's a masterclass right here. You can also be listening in, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know my guy doing it right.
You look at your reviews, and this actually I think is an important point. Like, you look at your reviews, and I'm telling both my partners who are dermatologists, I was like, hey, the sucralose is a super big sticking point, and I think it's like actually killing us. And they were saying, hey, well, in practice, none of my patient population ever complains about that. In practice, number 1, their doctor's selling it in practice to them, so they trust them. Number 2, they have had serious skin cancers before, so they're just going to fucking take whatever their doctor says. Number 3, you have a much older like patient population, average age of 60 coming in and seeing you, right? So there's like differences in like taste and flavor and all of this stuff.
Yeah, they're not in the Make America Healthy Again algorithm being like, oh my God.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, you know, there's also this bias because like patients of yours who stop taking it or don't like the taste are not going to come back and see you and say, Dr. Soleimani, I hate how the product tastes, right? They're just going to move on with their life, right? So I'm trying to communicate that to them because like their narrow sample set is telling them one story. I'm looking at our Amazon reviews that's telling us another story. So then we did a survey, and here's how I did the survey. We have people who churned. They were on a subscription. They bought it once and then they churned. There's a couple different reasons they could churn. 1, they just want the discount, or 2, there was like some fundamental product issue or some like effects issue. So what is the incentive that you can give someone to fill out a survey? Because like no one who buys a product and then leaves is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to like take time out of my day to fill out the survey, right? So you have to incentivize them. Brands typically incentivize by like, here's a discount or here's free product. Well, if they fucking churn, yeah, who cares, right? They're not going to be incentivized by that. So I'm just like, great, we're going to do $15 Amazon gift cards, right? If you fill out this like comprehensive survey, right? It was like 10, 15 questions.
Yeah, completely reasonable fucking value.
Quantitative and qualitative data. And then we sent that to about 250 people who had churned. And we had like 100 people opt in and fill out that survey. So you have a good sample size there. You have good data. You pay $1,500 for that information, but that's crucial information, right? Because everything's kind of like downstream of some of these issues. So now I can kind of definitively go back to my partners and be like, dude, this is the answer. We have to fix this. And then they see that data. They're like, yeah, that's a huge problem. We have to fix this. But you get a lot of good insight in there too, right? Where another insight that we got is a lot of people said, oh, I canceled because it's no longer sunny where I live. And that's really interesting because like as the product is named Sun Powder, there's still this education issue of like, well, it's a product you take year round and like here's like the long-term effects that it has on your skin. So we get a bunch of that insight and it's like, oh, okay, well, like here's how we solve that from a retention standpoint, whether it's like ongoing communications or like we set expectations up front and we pull a little back away from like, hey, only take this in the summer and summer imagery. So there's like these kernels of insights that you only get from qualitatively like asking people like, hey, why'd you leave this thing? And like, don't presuppose the answer. I think that there's like a lot of important ways to like run this type of testing that more brands should be doing.
Completely agree. I think that was a masterclass in it. So people should hopefully their otters, their fireflies, their notebook LMs really got that dialed in. If you did have stock for Black Friday, what would you be doing? Would you be ripping that buy one get one? Are we what are we doing?
I think there's like baseline discounts that we would be doing there. I think just a custom kind of like one-off products. With Oklahoma Smokes, we made these matchbooks. We made a set of like 3 matchbooks. Each one was like 30 cents. And we just spent some time on the artwork to make it look cool, right? So it doesn't just say Oklahoma Smokes. It looks like something that you'd want to keep, like have on your table. So it's a pretty low cost effort for us to make those. But then when we use those to incentivize discounts, like high bundle discounts of buy a carton, then you get this thrown in, it like dramatically converted more people up to the high average order value thing we were pushing to, which is really interesting because you could run kind of like equivalent discounts to get people to opt into that thing. But then you're just kind of like playing this like discount perception game. Whereas I'm like, hey, let's give you something that's cheap for us to make where we're going to net make a lot more money by going this route. So I think thinking of things that way, right? What are like cheap items that I can put a lot of effort into that a customer then wants to keep? So kind of think about something here.
My methodology or thought process on Black Friday has changed a lot over the years. I've been working on got so many things where for some brands it's completely that, right? But for a lot of them it's any brand where you've maintained price, where you've been like, cool, basically all year, maybe the exception of one sale or something, you're often maintaining price. I feel like giving people the opportunity to buy in, I think is like a super crucial, like the sale buyer, giving them the introduction to the brand to then I basically feel like that introduction point makes it more likely that they're going to like opt into the brand in the future. And especially if you do like steep, or whatever, you actually really give people like a 40%.
Yep.
And it was interesting seeing, I did that for the video for Particle last week, where it was like, hey, do luxury brands discount? It was like Burberry last year was 50% on a lot of shit. Acne Studios was 40%. And you look at the entire year, and because you can look at that Particle data, you can literally go average discount by time period. No other sale, no other sale, no other sale. And I thought it was very interesting to see the level that they did that. Even like Ring Concierge was doing it on like big old diamonds and shit.
Oh, wow.
I was like, it's curious to see like who actually uses that or not. But I love that, like everyone's always like, don't discount, which I generally agree with, like for a lot of positioning things, especially if you're like one of those, we're doing a sale every month, now we're addicted to it, which is the worst.
Yep.
But it's like, cool, if you have your 1 or 2 times a year where you can buy into the brand, I think that's a really crucial point for a lot of like scaling businesses, right? Where you're like, how do I get more acquisition? I have this list, this list hasn't like, especially if a large percent that aren't real buyers. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I got a QBR in like 5 minutes, so maybe it's maybe we call it a day for the short Ashwin Jordan no Jordan Ashwin Oren edition of the Brand Fathers.
That's right, short but still 40 minutes. So,
any last poignant thoughts for the masses?
What do you got?
I just want to say I appreciate every Brand Fathers listener.
Absolutely.
We love you guys. It has been great doing this. I feel like it's going into great places, and so thank y'all for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you.